Greetings, I'm Melanie Skank from Portside Real Estate Group. Today we're checking in on the oceanfront real estate trends for southern Maine. We're joined by Matt Byron, our oceanfront specialist.
Good morning, Melanie.
Good morning, Byron. I think the most obvious question here today is, what does a Maine beach house cost? What was the average sale price in 2014?
Yes, so we took a look at the 2014 sales data for oceanfront properties. Now, when I'm talking about oceanfront, I'm only talking about properties that actually own a piece of the shoreline. We're not talking about deeded water access. We're not talking about water views or marsh views or river views. We're talking about only oceanfront properties. So if you look at the closed sales from 2014, we saw the premium markets were Cape Elizabeth and Falmouth. In Falmouth, the average oceanfront house sold for $2.1 million. In Cape Elizabeth, it sold for $2 million. One of the things that we like to look at is the cost per foot of shoreline. What we do is we take the cost of the house and we divide it by the average amount of oceanfront owned. So you can see that the cost per linear foot of shoreline. We found that in Falmouth, the cost was $11,200 per foot of shoreline owned, and then Cape Elizabeth, that cost was $9,791. But I want to be clear, Melanie, Falmouth and Cape Elizabeth, these are the premium markets. If you want to find an oceanfront house for a lot less money, you can still go to a place like Harpswell. In 2014, we saw the average oceanfront house there sell for $677,000, which is only $3,415 per foot of shoreline owned. So there's still some really good deals to be found out there.
So how would you describe the beach house negotiations in 2014? How many days did it take to sell the average beach house, and what percentage of full asking price did the seller get?
So the negotiations in 2014 were strong. We see the market continuing to come back. We saw that the average house sold after being in the market for 97 days and sold for 87.1% of the asking price. And in premium markets like Cape Elizabeth, we saw that houses were selling in just 81 days and for 93.4% of the full asking price.
So just out of curiosity, Byron, is it better to buy in the summer or in the winter for oceanfront property?
It's an interesting question, Melanie. But based on our analysis of the 2014 sales data for oceanfront properties, we determined that you're not going to see a significant gain or loss to buying a house in the wintertime versus the summertime.
What was the influence of out-of-state buyers?
The out-of-state market is important. Generally, we find about 60% of the properties are owned by out-of-staters. In a market like Harpswell, we find about 67% of the oceanfront properties there are owned by out-of-staters. And then in Falmouth, only about half the properties are owned by people residing out-of-state. And the most common areas we see people coming in from would be Boston, Fairfield County, Connecticut, New York, and Florida.
What were the largest oceanfront deals in 2014?
There were three key oceanfront deals in 2014, and those would be the Payson Estate on Cumberland Foreside. That was a huge deal. 100 acres of land, lot coastline. That's been sold for $5.6 million. It's now being subdivided in about 10 housing lots and also turned into a public beach, which is really exciting for the town. Another key deal we saw in 2014 was the sale of 223 acres in Harpswell. That sold for only $1.3 million. The reason the price there was so low is because a lot of that land was locked up in conservation. And then the third major deal from 2014 would be the sale of Mineco Point in Falmouth. And that's a 10-acre oceanfront compound that sold for $6.3 million.
So Byron, what are your predictions for the 2015 beach house market?
Melanie, what we've been seeing lately is that a lot of people are buying houses with very low interest rates on their mortgages. Lately I've seen houses being bought with rates as low as 4.25%. I'm seeing people buy houses with very low money down, as low as 3.5% down. It sort of feels like the Wild West of lending that we saw in 2005 is kind of coming back. I think that that's a favorable factor. And certainly concurrently, we're looking at low gas prices. Gas right now is $2.25 per gallon. I think what's important about that is the psychology of it. It frees people to think about traveling. If you're living in New York or Boston, maybe you're thinking now, well, hey, I'll take the kids, hop in the SUV, drive to Maine for the weekend to vacation, or maybe I'll go up there for the summer to vacation. So I feel like low gas prices are important to the psychology of the out-of-state buyers. Overall, I feel like these factors are favorable to the oceanfront market for 2015.
Any other trends? What about pocket listings, or are you seeing many of those?
Yeah, Melanie, so pocket listings, for those people who don't know who are watching, pocket listings are properties which are for sale, which aren't on the open market. You're not going to see them advertised anywhere. I can tell you for a fact right now, I know of 6 oceanfront properties in that $2 to $5 million bracket, which are pocket listings. And the reason you're not going to see these posts online is because the sellers are very private. They don't want the public marching through their house to sell their property. So if you want access to a pocket listing, that's where you really need to contact us, because these are properties that you're not going to see anywhere else.
Thank you, Byron.
Thanks, Melanie. Great to see you. Take care.
If you're looking for a Maine beach house, give Byron a call. He's obsessed with oceanfront property. He's on the Harold Kennedy team at Portside Real Estate Group. In 2014, they were ranked the #1 team in the county. They represented more buyer clients and transactions than any other team. For additional updates on the Maine real estate market, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Until next time, I'm Melanie Skank from Portside Real Estate Group. I hope you have a great week.